So, good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me clearly? Yes? For those that does not know me, I'm Jørgen Steffensen, and I have been working in FotoWare for 3 years now, and primarily on the backend solution, both in cloud and on-premise. So in this demonstration, I will go through smart folders, taxonomies, and auto search filtering. All these tools are there to help you order your photos, like the header is trying to tell you. I have created a poll on slide.do, so it's the information given there. So I strongly encourage you to go into this page and look at the poll. It's only one question, and in the end of the session, I will go more in depth on what most people want to know more about. Because in this presentation I will not go into details about how to configure these things, just to show the possibilities, how they differ, and how to use them. So let's go to the demo. Oh, yeah. As you can see, this is not a very long presentation. So let's log in as Joey. I kind of messed this up because I wanted it to be John Doe, but it ended up being Joey Doe. I ended up using the data set from our demo server. Maybe some of you have already seen these assets. I quickly found out that it was not trivial to set up a solution with this asset in one archive, even though I used time to kind of setting up smart folders, taxonomies, and so on. You have to use a combination of these tools to make this nice and user-friendly. And I want to go through my experience with this. So I'd rather do that instead of changing the data set and presenting a data set that is a perfect match for taxonomy and another data set that is a perfect match for smart folders. One data set that is a perfect match for taxonomies are typically historical data or and animals, things that is easily categorized. And the smart folders, everything. I mean, it's just a matter of configuring it, but it could be messy. So let's start out with this setup. Here there is no navigation at all. So there is no navigation bar, but you are presented with search options and advanced search, and you can sort data. And in some cases this is sufficient, but in many cases I think we all agree that this requires a lot from the user, and it might not be very user friendly. So let me try to search for something here. You can see my history. So searching for beans, it works fine, and searching for uploaded by. So I'm searching for all assets uploaded by me, or not Joey, but Jørgen. But as you can see, this required the user to know that he has to search for field 360 and the username, and this is not very user friendly, right? So what we can do is do the advanced search, adding metadata criteria, doing upload by, and then write my name, the full name, not the username. Search, and the same result. I can, yeah, but let's go to the folder navigation, the physical folder navigation, to make this a bit easier. So you can categorize a little bit before you do the search. So one of the advantages with this physical folder navigation is that it's a very familiar structure for a lot of users. Everyone has been using Windows Explorer to organize their assets before, so they know how to do this. And another advantage is very easy for the user to upload images. Use our upload tool, select the folder you want the destination to be, and you're done. But there are also disadvantages with this type of setup. But first, let me just show you one thing. If I know that I want to go for photos, then I can just search within that folder. So it simplifies a little bit, but not enough, maybe. But again, in some cases, this might be enough. And one case where this is not really enough is when you want an asset to be present in multiple folders. So if I want an asset to be present within people, within drinking, and within hat, I have to copy the folder, the assets. So I will go into a guy with move permission and copy permission. So let's go to folder navigation. And then you can see that this asset is present within this folder, and within this folder. But it's not really the same asset. It's a different permalink, right? And this is not very good. If you do something change, if you change something with this, it must be present in the other cases. So there are cases where folder navigation itself is not what you want. And let's have a look at the permalink for one asset, for example. So let's go to flyers. And I want this flyer to be moved to a banner instead of a flyer. So I just open this to show you what I mean. This is the permalink of the asset. I want to move this to be present in another folder in banners. And if you go to the details, the permalink is of course updated. And this might be a problem if you have an integrated system with something else that is using the permalink. The asset no longer exists. So just move this back to the banners and to the flyers, and then the permalink will exist. Okay, so let's go to a third option, which is taxonomies. So here, taxonomies are very powerful filtering tools that you can very quickly select multiple things, multiple terms, and filter down on them without even making a search query. So we can agree that this is a lot more user-friendly than having the user manually type in a lot of the search queries. In this case, you can have multiple or one asset occurring in multiple results. So that was not possible with physical folder navigation, but in this case it is. And that's because this is, of course, not dependent on the permalink, but dependent on the metadata. So if I want to move the same file from in the previous archive, we had the folder navigation enabled, and we were clicking on flyers to just show the flyers. This is the similar case. Clicking on flyers in the taxonomy to show you all the flyers in the system. But if I would like this to be moved to banners, like we just did, we'd have to update the metadata instead of doing the move operation. So I can say that, okay, I don't want the flyers, it will be banners. Before I do that, I will just show you that this is permalink. And this is not new to manual view, I guess. So here it is. It's still the same metadata, it's still the same permalink. And if I click flyers, it will no longer be present. But if I click banners, there is one flyer in the banners. I again move this back, and why I do that is because I need it for other demos. So go back to the flyers. Okay. As I said, you can combine multiple filters, but how are they really combined? They are combined using AND operations. So, for example, valid license and is approved for the web. But internally within the same group, it is OR operation. So if I say that I want something that has a valid license is approved for web and contains beans or flour. So if I just take away the flour, there will be less assets, just beans. This leads me to the next point. There are some cases as well where taxonomies might not be the perfect fit. And in this case, we have a tree in taxonomy. For example, we want all persons to be present, but we want to filter even more on the person. So you can click here. So I created some options. So you have the activity. What is the activity for the person? It's drinking, but the set did not really change. And that's because it's within the group it's ANDing, ORing. So you see both results, all person and drinking, and not the combined version. And this makes more sense if you are going to, I want a person that is drinking and the mood is happy. So this is not what is translated. It's translated, I want a person that is drinking or is happy, and the set is the same. So for this case, that is not working as I wanted for this company. So let's go let's go to okay. Before we go to the smart folders, I want to tell you one more thing. And this can the thing is that this can be solved by separating it into multiple groups, because between groups it's AND, within group is OR. So I have one group called hats. So now I can do, I want a person with a hat, and I want and I want the activity to be drinking. Then we have this one asset. But as you might guess, this works, but it might not be so user friendly because these elements is only relevant if you have already ticked off the person taxonomy, right? So the person, these things are only relevant for persons. Yeah. So let's move on to the smart folders. In smart folders, you are basically defining shortcuts for searches that you are doing. And this might be very useful for specific events or recommendations that you are giving someone, or very commonly searched expression that your user are typically doing. So instead of a person always clicking, I want a valid license, I want it to be on the web, and I want it to be a happy person, and so forth, you can define a smart folder that does all this for you. So in this case, I've defined a smart folder called User Conference 2017. There is nothing in here, but you have subfolders called logos and photos. So this tells the user that for the User Conference 2017, these are the photos that you should be looking at, and logos. And you don't even have to click anything on the taxonomies to find that. Yeah. And But it's important to understand, that these tools, smart folders, taxonomy, and advanced search, are using the same search engine at the back end. So you can, if you are very clever, define this type of search as a custom search in taxonomy, and you can have a search in. You can do a lot, and it's not that you can't do anything with smart folders that can't be taxonomies. It's just that it's not meant to be used like that, and it might not be very user friendly. Okay. One thing about this which is important is that even though I define now a smart folder which contains these assets, I could have done that with physical folders as well, but then I had to copy the assets into that folder to be present. But for smart folders, it's the same asset as the assets on the system, so it's the same permanent. So you don't have to copy assets into smart folders because it's just a search expression. You can define smart folders or sub-smart folders within the scope of your smart folder. So in this case, you define some sub-smart folders, which is these that are only relevant for logos. And as you may have guessed, then we are going back to this issue with the people case we have. Because for this company, it's important to be able to filter down on the properties of the people within some of the images. So then you can go into people, and you can say that I want happy people or happy people with hats. That's how you do that. And of course, there are some cases where this is not what you want. For example, if a person is at this point, and you want a person that is wearing a hat, but you don't really care about what mood this person is in, you can of course define a new smart folder, which is called I don't care about mood. But we all can agree that that's not very, very nice way to do this. So again, smart folder itself is not solving our problem completely. So what do you do? How to make this work? And some of you might have been into these issues before, and you have probably solved it the best way for you. But in this case, I wanted to use auto filters to categorize these assets into different archives before applying smart folders and taxonomies that are relevant for these type of assets. So it's important to define concepts or categories that is relevant for your company. So you can define a lot of categories with these pictures, but you have to just define those that are important for you. Okay. So what I've done is define an archive that's called people, photos, branding graphics, and videos. So you have this archive only contains photos of that contains people, and this only contains photos without people. And this contains the branding graphics, of course, and videos. These are all pointing to the same index. So at the server, it's basically the same document folder for those into configuring the system. It's just applied a different auto search filtering on them. So go into the people. Here I defined some smart folders. That is giving me shortcut for some commonly used search terms. It's assets uploaded by me. And we have some recommended assets that contain specific properties that the people administrating the system thinks is important. And we have some news this month and new today, but there is something new today. And we have now defined taxonomy items, which is only relevant for people, photos with people in them. We have the valid license and the approved for web scenario again, but now we have different taxonomy boxes for mood, activity, and clothing. Now I can do it like this. I want the person with which is happy and is wearing a hat. But now I guess I've deleted it. That's the person. Oh, she's not happy. That's a problem. She is calm, of course. Sorry about that. So this is much better, I think. Now the user is not presented with a lot of items that is not relevant for the photos he or she is interested in. Only the things that is relevant for the archive. And the same goes for the photos archive. Now you know already that there is no assets containing people. Or there might be like this, but the people itself is not important for the picture. It's the other things. So I define that what's important here is the content. So if you go into this archive, you can search for beans, so it contains coffee, and then you can find assets that is relevant that you want to find. Again, we have defined smart folders, but I'm not going through this because this is the same smart folders as in the people, except for one thing, and it's this one. Because the recommended assets for photos containing people might be different than recommended assets for photos not containing people. And one difference is that I define recommended assets as being assets containing people that is happy or calm. So you don't want people that are tired or yeah. So this is just different definition of it, even though the name is the same. And yes, one difference between smart folders and taxonomies is that smart folders is defined on the archive, scope is the archive, but the taxonomy itself, each taxonomy items is defined on the entire taxonomy is defined on the entire site. So that's why we can just change here depending on the archive, because it's the scope for the smart folders is the archive. So going to branding graphics. Now it's a little bit different, because here we are interested in asset types as well. Because branding graphics may contain logos, flyers, promo cards, banners, business cards, and wallpapers. So we could have used the taxonomy like we did in the taxonomy archive, but then it would end up like this. There is some things here that we don't want to be present, like videos and photos, because these should not contain any videos and photos. These should not contain any assets, because it's branding graphics, not video or photos. What we could have done is, of course, to delete them, but then we also delete them for the other archive I had, which was the taxonomy archive. But another way to do it is to use smart folders. So here I only define the asset types that is relevant for this archive. And one advantage doing it like this because I can go into logos and define sub-smart folders that is relevant for the logos. And for example, current collection is relevant, but now I guess I've defined photos and videos. So now I have on the logos that is the current collection, those that are relevant today. And this smart folder contains a search query that would require the person to click multiple items in the taxonomy. But here, the user only have to click one smart folder. So these are the previous logos, and you have some older logos that you don't use. This is also interesting if you go to the business card section. Here you have a lot of business cards. It's not a lot, but it could be a lot. And the user is typically interested in its own business cards. So I can click that, and this user does not have any business cards. So I have to log out and log in with Frank. He doesn't see all the other archives, by the way. This is for demo purposes. He has then also pinned the branding graphics because that's what he's interested in. He also pinned the business cards smart folders because he's very interested in his business cards. So you go there and you go to My Business Cards, and he only gets business cards that's relevant for him. So it's the last archive is the video archive. In this case, there is no many videos, so there is no need to simplify this further. So in this case, we don't do anything with the videos. And that's nice too, because it could be a person or user interested in videos. We don't want to have all these other options if there is few items. So now we have built up a system like this for Frank and his company that I believe is user friendly for his purposes. But there is one thing that you might think could be hard for this case, because now we have spent time organizing existing assets, putting them into smart folders, taxonomies, and things like that. But what happens if the user starts to upload images? How to tell the user where to put assets? And for that purpose, I created a new archive, which is an inbox archive. And for this this archive only contains assets uploaded by the user. So let's try to upload. So I'll upload this. Oops, this one. This one. Three assets. And it only can select inbox folder because that's the inbox archive, because that's the only archive with upload permission. So I select the inbox archive and I upload to the archive. So now if I refresh this, Frank sees the images. He uploaded. Frank Taylor. You see my picture because it's my email. So if I log out to him and go back with Joey, he can't see any assets. And these assets are not present in any of these archives yet, because Frank needs to put them somewhere. No, they just exist here. So he can do that by saying, okay, these assets, is photo containing something else than people. So here we define some actions that populate automatically metadata fields such that these assets will be present in the photos archive. You can click that. One advantage of using this type of scenario is that you then have different metadata editor for whatever you are uploading. So for this case, it's photos. So again, there's not important to put in what clothing a person that does not exist is wearing. So those are removed from the metadata editor. And there's some other, so there's some fields I have to fill out for this to work, or because there's required fields. That feels very important for this archive. So let's say like that, and then let's just click run. And now it's moved into the other folder. So I can refresh this one, and it should not be present anymore. So if I go to photos, these guys are here. If I go back here, I can move this one to people. Okay, I already have some metadata on it, so I don't need to fill out everything. That's why I chose this asset. Then I put it in the people archive, and it's here. And I also define, this is, by the way, maybe a little bit out of scope, but I think it's important to show you the entire use case instead of just showing you all the features of smart folders and taxonomy, but how to really use them together. So here I define some marker telling that this is the asset I uploaded. So I can say that, okay, I don't want this one. I regret approving this one. So if you refresh this, they are no longer present. Same goes for this is another asset. And then they are back into the inbox archive. And here I can delete them if I want to. And this also enables the use, even further permission handling for people deleting photos from archives. Because this guy, Frank, does not have the right to delete assets in any archive. So he can't delete. But he should be able to delete files he's uploading himself, because those files is his. So that's how you can solve that type of scenario. So another case with this type of setup. Before I go into that, I think my presentation is actually ending, but I could do more. But before I go even further, I would like to check if there is any questions or if there's any if the poll is hinged. Okay, so smart folders with dynamic tags is what most people would like to see more depth. So let's do that. And we have let's go into the people's archive first, and we need to log in with the guy with the admin rights. So here we have, okay, if you want to use dynamic tags in smart folders, you have to use this field, search for. You can't say that I want add method criteria and then upload by and then use a dynamic tag here. That doesn't work. So you have to use this, and here you define dynamic tags. So in this case, I said current user dot username for field 360 is the field that we used earlier. And this, for new today, we have now ISO date, so it's today. And this one, here you have a range. So it's now minus 1 month until now. And this is field 362. These are 360, 361, and 362 is automatically populated when you upload assets into the system. And the recommended, yeah, that's some long string. It's no new information here, it's pretty much the same, just different. Okay, and there is one more, and that's for branding graphics, I think. We have the business cards, yeah? So my business cards, here I say that for field 213, I've defined that this is where we should store the name of the user who owns the business card. So that's say current user, and then we store the full name now, not the username. Yes, and I think that that completes my presentation.